McBride with McBride Realty Group in 5 minutes of free time, your property masters. Today we're going to continue our contract series. And we're going to go to part 4 of the contract. We left off at section 7. Section 7 is the assignability of the contract, and you basically have 3 options. You may assign, the buyer may assign the contract and be released from liability. The buyer can assign the contract to someone else and not be released from liability, or you may not assign the contract. Typically you cannot assign the contract, but there are certain situations where you would want to assign the contract. The next one is one of the most important, confusing, and often misinterpreted sections of the contract, and it is called financing. Financing, the first section is pretty easy. In section 8A, says the buyer will pay cash for the purchase of the property at closing. There's no financing contingency to the buyer's obligation to close. If the buyer obtains a loan for any part of the purchase price, buyer acknowledges that any terms imposed by the lender shall not affect or extend the obligation to close this contract. So what that means is, this is always a great buyer, the buyer is going to pay cash or he's going to get a loan, but this contract will not be contingent on him getting a loan. If you have the ability to do that, then that is a fantastic way to make an offer. It makes your offer stronger than your competitors. But most people fall into this category, which is B. The contract is contingent on the buyer obtaining approval of a conventional, FHA, VA, or other type of loan within, and if it's left blank, you have 30 days to get the approval after the effective date, but you can put whatever number you want there, but typically 30 days is what's used. After effective date, and that is called the loan approval period. And then it says for either a fixed loan, which is pretty much all we do these days because interest rates are so low, an adjustable rate mortgage, which will become popular eventually, but not now, and the one that gets checked most often, because we don't usually know at the time we write the contract, a fixed or adjustable rate in the loan amount at an initial interest rate not to exceed, and you put a blank in there. There's a blank in there to fill in. And if it's left blank, then the prevailing rate upon the buyer's credit worthiness. So we usually just leave that blank. For a term of, and if you leave that blank, 30 years. Of course, they might take a 15-year. We just don't know exactly what loan they're going to end up with. So they left all these open-ended questions in the contract. But the most important part of this is that it's contingent upon the buyer obtaining a loan approval within 30 days. Okay? Now this is where it gets a little sketchy. The buyer shall make mortgage loan application, so they should apply for the loan for financing within, there's a blank to fill in, it says if left blank 5 days, so let's say 5 days after the effective date. Remember, the effective date is the date the last initial was delivered, and use good faith and diligent effort to obtain a loan approval meeting the financing terms in the contract. Loan approval, which requires a condition related to the state of the buyer or other property, shall not be deemed a loan approval for purposes of this subparagraph. So, you do not, this is strictly a contingency on you being able to obtain financing. However, loan approval, which requires a condition related to the sale of a buyer's other property, is not loan approval. So that means that if you write an offer contingent on you getting financing, and your financing is contingent on you selling your other property, this offer is not contingent on you selling the other property unless you specify somewhere else in the offer that it is actually contingent on you selling that other property. So that's actually new part of this paragraph that's been added literally within the last couple of weeks, which spurred this discussion of going over the contract. So basically, you have 30 days to apply for to get loan approval. You can do a fixed or adjustable rate. You have 5 days to make the application after the effective date, and this paragraph is not contingent on you selling another property. You would need to put that in a different section of the contract. On the next time we visit the contract, we'll be discussing what happens when the buyer fails to get that loan approval within the 30 days and what the seller's remedy is. Have a great day. If you're interested in writing a contract for a property or selling your property, probably can get you a contract for top dollar in this market. It's a crazy market. Your property is most likely worth more than you think, no matter what you think your property is worth. Give us a call, shoot us a text, 386-866-1007. Have a great week.